have a show lined up for you. Today's Thursday, so that means it's in the market. We're talking about today financial planning and how to plan ahead. It's about 10 days into the year. And if you're still asking questions of what you can do better so that come December, we're not talking about the same things, then you need to keep it here. But first, we are going to take a look at the dailies. And as always, we'll begin with the Daily Nation. And the headline, the Daily Nation, is ODM blames Ruto for attacks on President Kenyatta. Now, the DP respect and loyalty to his boss is not questionable, says Ruto's spokesperson, responding to ODM that is blaming Ruto. Now, yesterday, there was a series of press conferences from Jubilee allied leaders, both current and former, and when we start telling you telling the stories of the day yesterday, we'll be showing you some of the things that were said. But basically what ODM said is the anger of Ngujiri, that Bahati Member of Parliament, when he talks, when you see him talk, is not because there is no development in his region, but because the president has not endorsed Ruto. So that's what ODM says, that what we have been witnessing in the last few days from the Ruto allies is because the president is yet to endorse anyone, including the deputy president. Joshua Kutonyi, who was an advisor, political advisor to the president, says for Ruto to succeed in 2022, the unity of Jubilee coalition is paramount, but what they are doing is causing animosity in the Jubilee party. While Martha Karua, who was one of the persons who attended the press conference yesterday of both current and former leaders from the wider Mount Kenya region, says the president's washenzi anger on those saying there was no development was only directed at leaders who had been misled. And finally, the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Fridah Owinga, says no Kenyans should be vilified, hated or discriminated against on account of the tribe, race, gender, political persuasion or any other reason. So if you want to know what else this lady said and you were not able to watch news yesterday, you buy your Daily Nation newspaper and you read about this story and why ODM is now blaming Ruto for the attacks on President Uhuru Kenyatta. And ODM chiefs accuse the DP of using proxies to discredit president in central Kenya, but Ruto terms the allegation outrageous. Mount Kenya politicians rush to defend Uhuru as Tuju dismisses claims of a crisis in Jubilee, saying the party is strong and intact. Let's see how long the party will remain strong and intact, as Fridah Owinga says. And that's not the only political story that has been highlighted in the Daily Nation. In Ukambani, Kalonzo is facing rebellion. The Wiper leader is now facing rebellion from some of the people who have had his back all this while. And he is facing a fresh political revolt in his backyard of Ukambani. Read about that story also. And 8-year-old girl is Kenya's newest tycoon, as the High Court allowed the 8-year-old to control multi-million shilling estate owned by her deceased grandparent who worked in the National Youth Service. And just before we leave the front page of the Daily Nation, Uganda named Africa's best goalkeeper. Read about that also in the Nation. Right, page 2 of the Daily Nation, rogue officers cause cases in final probe stages. This is a story that we covered extensively. Investigation results to be submitted to the DPP, as this rogue officer is now likely to face charges. In the recent past, the country has seen an upsurge in extrajudicial killing. So read about that. And finally, Lintore was barred from evicting his wife, that's Marianne Keitany, from their home in Runde, and in fact she gained access yesterday. Our story is on page 2 of the Daily Nation. And the story that we spoke about in the front page of the Daily Nation, the 8-year-old who got access to the property owned by the grandfather who worked at the National Youth Service, is highlighted on page 3. She is the youngest tycoon in the country right now at only 8. So that story has also been highlighted extensively on page 3 of the Daily Nation. The press conference by leaders from the president's backyard is also on page 4. Ruto Raila allies in war of words as Jubilee row rages. Party Supremo, that's Fridah Owinga, yesterday attempted to move into calm the escalating debate on the Jubilee party and if it can still hold strong. That story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Read about all the politics of the day and also the story about Kalonzo's backyard crumbling on page 6 of the Daily Nation. Let me take a look at the cartoon of the day on page 14, if I'm not wrong. Right, it's very interesting here. War on graft, arrest, prosecution, etc. You find your way through it. It's very difficult. And when Jiko there is wondering what to do, where to go, that's what the cartoon is Munene is trying to show this morning on page 14 of the Daily Nation. But there's a story that I've just walked past on the newspaper this morning, and this is a story about the CEC in charge of education at the county of Nairobi. The war of words between the governor, who says that she is responsible for the loss of about 15 million shillings, while the DG is blaming Sonko for attempting to cover up and intimidate those who have fallen out of favor. So that story is here on page 8, and we are also going to show you exactly what was said yesterday. So those are some of the stories that we have in the Daily Nation this morning, but the Daily Nation has a lot of other stories, including opinion pieces. So grab a copy. On the back page, it's about security Matiang'i in staff change to boost service delivery. Top secretaries and regional commissioners are some of the officials who have been affected. Senior officials in the Interior Ministry transferred and promoted in a move the CSAs will enhance service delivery. Read about that. The back page, find out who was taken where, who was transferred to what place. Story on the back page of the Daily Nation. In the Standard now, and the headline, glass off in Uhuru Ruto allies battle. There's a picture there of the press conference by current and former leaders drawn from Mount Kenya. It's a story that is being highlighted. Those who have attacked the president will soon regret it. You have seen some even apologizing. We want to ask leaders to be sober when speaking. You need to listen to that soundbite from the beginning to the end, where Tito had a point, Tito, that the Kiambu governor. And the other story, before I jump to the story about pauper millionaires, let me read for you an excerpt here. The leaders described the Tanga group, that the group associated with the deputy president, as propagandists out to divide the region for selfish 2022 political interest. And on page 12 of the Standard, there's a story about the millionaires who own flats worth millions of shillings but remain penniless. In other words, they're not liquid. They have assets, but they have no money in their pockets. Read about that story on page 12 of the Standard. And a bizarre twist here, feature story by the Standard. Read about the woman who exhumed a girl's body and prayed for resurrection. It's also been highlighted. The news features page 3 of the Standard newspaper. Let's see what we have in the pictorials for the Standard. It's an acrobat daring antics to earn a living. That is what we have in the pictorials today. Standard has very good pictures on page 2, so that's what they're showing today. This acrobat whose antics earning him a living. And obviously, we're talking about your living, that pay that you get at the end of the month this morning, and how you can properly plan for it ahead of time, and what you can do to ensure you have some money in your pocket. So I have a panel already in studio. We'll be discussing about that. So as I see this picture, that comes straight to mind. The bizarre story, the feature story about the woman who exhumed the daughter's body and prayed for the resurrection, is on page 3 of the Standard. So is the story of the pilot who faces charges as an 8-year-old girl is defiled. Story also highlighted on page 3 of the Standard. Page 5, we have more about the push and pull in the Jubilee party, the perceived rift or the real rift in the Jubilee party, and what the leaders had to say about it. And the other story we're showing you this morning is about the arrested Chinese nationals who were arrested somewhere in Nairobi with 6 million worth of wildlife trophy. They were detained and taken to court. So the Standard has that story on page 4, but we'll be showing the story shortly. The story about Ukambani leaders is also in the Standard on page 6 of the Standard. So if you're interested in the wider politics, the wider issues in the wider party, you'll also find it in the Standard. The story about Sonko and the CEC in charge of education is also highlighted on page 11 of the Standard. Sonko to name deputy, reshuffle CECs today, and Igade, you remember, quit over a year ago, and until now we don't have a substantive deputy governor in county 047. So Sonko is likely to name the deputy governor, as claims of underhand and misappropriation of funds in the county are abound, and the resignation of CECs, and he's also likely to do a reshuffling of the CECs or his cabinet today. Right, and the back page of the Standard, as always, Oliech finally finds his scoring boots. Former Harambee Stars captain helps Kogalo back to winning ways. He was just signed, I think, at the end of last year or beginning of this year, and he started scoring for Gor, and now Gor is back to its winning ways. That story on the back page of the Standard. As always, moving back towards the mid pages of the Standard, you find all the sports story. Let's now take a look at what's in the Star, just the headlines, and they are not going political this morning. It's all about justice and how top cop killed trader in police cell. Ruthless Mutua murdered mirror trader Martin Kome, who was 33-year-old, after smashing his head with a metal pipe. Ex-Roraka OCS awaits sentencing on January 15th. That's next week, after being found guilty in December. So that's the headline that the Star is going with. The story about Sonko is highlighted on page 12 and 13 of the Star, and definitely this is a story that city residents who pay rates to the county and fees would really be interested in. So a story of Sonko is also in the Star, so is the Daily Nation and the Standard. It's a story that has been shared across. The pilot who was charged with defiling 8-year-old girl has been denied bond, also highlighted by the Star. By the way, the Star this morning is not going political at all. So page 2 and 3 both have stories about justice and the corridor of justice. Page 4, the same thing. Actually, they have only put the politics on page 6 and 7. Mount Kenya politicians attack DP Ruto, defend Uhuru as rift within Jubilee party widens. That rift that has been downplayed by the Secretary General, Raphael Tuju. Also, a story just coming below the main story about the rift in the Jubilee party. So that's what we have in the Star. Finally, is the People Daily. Before I tell you what's in the business, People Daily, the headline is political. Don't split central vote, leaders won. They tell Ruto he is not the 2022 presidential presumptive candidate, even as Jubilee Secretary General Tuju shows party is intact and its vision for the country under Uhuru leadership is on course. Story there. Also, the other political story is your time is up. Kalonzo, Kamba leaders tell Kalonzo Musyoka. In fact, funny soundbite from Kivutha Kibwana. He said, you know, every time you try to offer yourself or your candidacy for presidency, you were told that you were spoiling for the other person. So yesterday he was arguing that even the other person is spoiling for that person. So if he's spoiling for Kalonzo, Kalonzo is also spoiling his chances of becoming the president of Kenya. And finally, the Business Daily, before we take a look at the stories making headlines this morning. The Business Daily, Keitanch's Linturi in 530 million lodge forgery row. She gained access to her home yesterday in Runda, but the court battle reveals the vast empire that the Meru senator and his estranged wife, who was a chief of staff at the deputy president's office, built before the couple's public fallout that has triggered bitter cases. That is the story that has been mainly highlighted in the Business Daily. And the Auditor General also queries the 35 million cruise ship allowance for fisheries workers. That's also in the Business Daily. Let me see what we have. Page 2 of the Business Daily. Brazil leaves 75-year-old sports betting plan. Loans help village women turn idle land into gold. The story about Linturi and Miriam Kitanyi is on page 4 of the Business Daily. All right, those are some of the stories we have in the papers for you this morning. Let's now take a look at some of the stories that we have. But first, we begin with the highlights. One constituency, 2 days, 4 suicide shock mourning and cries for answers and solutions. The deepening trouble in Jubilee, it's the president's soldiers against the deputy presidents. And Nairobi county drama continues. And we begin with politics. The Jubilee Party, a section of Jubilee politicians from the Mount Kenya region, now says the region's support for DP William Ruto's 2022 presidential bid will not be automatic. The politicians, who include sitting and former MPs, say they are legitimate gateway to the region, accusing their colleagues of receiving handouts to get back at the president or question his development record in the region. But amid all these outbursts that threaten to tear Jubilee apart, Party Secretary General Rafael Tuju says it is nothing to worry about, as NTV's political affairs reporter Ken Mijungu now tells us.
The political corridors in the country have witnessed heightened activity in the last few days as politicians come out to either defend President Uhuru Kenyatta or his deputy William Ruto. There has been a cold war in the Jubilee Party, and now it's full-blown with battle lines clearly drawn. Today, a section of politicians, current and former, from Mount Kenya region called a press conference in defense of President Uhuru Kenyatta as barbs are thrown at him over his washenzi remarks after Gatundu MP Moses Kuria and a host of other politicians accused the president of not giving the region attention on development matters.
We demand respect to the president and the presidency.
I have seen people saying, making it look like the washenzi remark was aimed at voters. Clearly, it is not true.
Moses Kuria, who is the vice chair of transport, he is in charge of all the roads in the country. He knows each and every road. He is the one who passed the budget of all the roads in the country. He sits in the budget committee. So he cannot again now go to the public, tell the public that there is no development in that particular region, yet he's the one who passed the budget.
The politicians say Ruto is not fit to succeed President Kenyatta anymore.
They are going around in the country telling the people that the president is doing nothing in the Mount Kenya region as a way of getting him out of his agenda, of his four pillars of development, but also so that he doesn't fight corruption. So this is the future of Mount Kenya. Anybody who thinks that can come to our bedroom and impregnate our women and our children and dictate how we are going to do, I am telling that person, your time is up.
If you want to engage Mount Kenya, you must pass through the genuine leaders who are not buyouts. We want to tell them their days are numbered.
There also are those who are perhaps eyeing and angling for certain positions in the future. And they want to use the deputy president to show like they have the numbers in Central Province. No, the numbers, our de facto leader in Mount Kenya, in the entire Mount Kenya region, is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
There have been robust political discourse, perceived as both positive and negative, within and outside Jubilee Party. That is part and parcel of politics anywhere in the world, where people enjoy freedom of speech and expression.
But even as the Jubilee kitchen gets hot, going by statements by its politician outside the party headquarters, the Secretary General is trying to firefight, only arguing that whatever is happening is not threatening the very fabric of the party, but only a difference in opinion. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at the Jubilee Party headquarters in Nairobi County.
Very interesting indeed. Now, sometimes it can be difficult to make your point. It's a daily problem for our politicians, and as the stakes change, so does the speech. Now, the president's recent outburst as he dismissed his critics who've challenged his development policies continue to draw varied reaction. But what was lost in his rant was his message. Take a look.
Kwa hivyo hawa washenzi wawachane na mimi.
The last part of a statement that began so well during his public address in Mombasa, and that has now overshadowed the message that would have otherwise silenced his critics, those standing up to him and his policies.
Na hivyo ndivyo itakuwa. Tunaelewana wenzangu?
This is what had the head of state vexed.
Baada ya kupiga kura, maendeleo tunapatiana kwingine. Hiyo ujinga tuache. Adio ujinga tufanya nini?
And he gave us good as he got. But he's not the only public figure to have used those words that may have triggered outrage or even blushes. His predecessor was known for these famous ziggers.
Kwa upuzi wake na ushenzi yake, ni lazima ataje Kibaki.
But they are not the only politicians or leaders who have let their true feelings shine through their own brand of colorful language.
Oh, Raila anakuja kuingia kwa Jubilee, anataka kufukuza watu wengine. Upuzi mtupu.
Mtu yeyote ana akili timamu ataona wewe ni mshenzi sana.
But does this coarse and cruel language have a place in public service?
The president is a politician. When people start calling him names over the public rallies, he's bound to get angry.
Okay.
But anger is not what I'm interested in here.
Okay.
Is what is it that I would want to see?
But as a result of that, now people are not talking about what should be spoken about.
Yes, now it looks like it's a Mount Kenya problem
Mount
right
Kenya
now.
problem, yes.
It's a Mount Kenya issue now.
Yes.
And it is not a Mount Kenya issue.
We all say things. Asisi zote usema jambo ambaye sio ile ungependa kusema. Tusameane na tuendelee na kasi. These are small things. Let us look at the bigger things. There are bigger things to worry all of us than just a word which probably just came by the way. Tusameane na tuendelee na tuheshimiane.
And the implication often is that the real message gets lost.
I don't know why people are becoming emotional. That was just a terminology like any other. And I want to tell Kenyans, relax.
And at the end of the day,
people, we are the ones who choose these guys. The first time you choose an MP like that one, who do you blame thereafter? You see what I'm saying? The time you choose a senator like that one, a governor like that one, when will things change? So
Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Electing them.
I felt like he was taking a swipe at someone, but what do I know? Let's move on to another story. A resignation followed by an accusation of graft is the latest manifestation of the drama that has rocked City Hall. Nairobi Governor Gideon Mbuvi Sonko had been engaged in a battle of words with his former education CC Janet Muthoni Ouko, who has accused him or who he accuses of misappropriating county funds. In a rejoinder, however, Ouko termed the allegations against her as baseless and that the governor, in what she says is his usual fashion, was using underhand tactics to intimidate those who break ranks with him. Leila Mohammed now reports.
The fallout between Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko and his former education executive Janet Ouko played out in an unpleasant public spat that involved claims of misappropriation of some 50 million shillings. The governor claims she misused the money and the matter has been under investigation by the DCI since August last year.
If you don't account for this money, my friend, and you are the head of this docket, my friend, you will face the law. That one I told her. Na hiyo si blackmail. Kuchunga pesa uma hiyo si blackmail. Activist hapa isiingilie. Utekonokrata hapa usiingilie.
But the former education CC is fighting tooth and claw against those accusations.
If the same governor wrote to EACC to investigate me on 14th of August, that same governor in his right mind renewed my contract for 4 more years in November.
So why is he contradicting himself?
It wasn't so long ago that the governor had showered praise on his top-performing CEC.
She's one of the most hardworking CEC members in my government.
But that relationship has now been soured by claims and counter-claims of corruption and lack of professionalism, with the Ouko lifting the lead on the operations at City Hall while explaining why she left the Mike Sonko's government.
We are dealing with a reckless ego, roaming around with abandon, with state machinery, looking for who to destroy next to compensate for self-esteem deficiencies.
Following her resignation earlier this week, Janet Ouko, the former CEC of Education for Nairobi City County, now says she will take on Mike Mbuvi Sonko, the governor of Nairobi, on any allegations of corruption.
Ni waziri wa kwanza kujiuzuru na nia yake ya kikatiba. Na pia alikuwa ni mkono wa sheria umemfuata paka kwa bedroom yake. Na utaendelea kumfuata. Kujiuzulu haitasimamisha sisi kufuata pesa ya maskini mahali imepotelea. Wale mawaziri wote nimefuta sababu ya niko na evidence ya.
The governor says he's moving on and will soon announce his new deputy governor and cabinet and will not tolerate corruption in his house. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Right, this morning the BBC is reporting that the opposition leader, Felix Tshisekedi, is the winner of the election in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he becomes the first opposition leader to win that election with about 7 million votes. This is followed closely by Martin Fayulu, who is also an opposition candidate with 6.4 million votes, and Emmanuel Shadari, who managed 4.4 million votes. Now, this means that Kabila will be exiting the stage after 18 years. Remember, Joseph, he took power from his father. Now, if you don't know about Felix, he is the son of former veteran politician in Congo. And now this announcement has officially been made by the Election Commission, and it means effectively the counting of the votes that has been dragging for ages now ends. In fact, about 2 days ago, we were reporting that they had only counted 46%, but now they've done over 50% of the votes, and they can declare Felix Tshisekedi as the winner of that election in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's a developing story. Let's wait and see, but Kabila has said that he'll hand over power as soon as this is done with. Right, let's come back to the country and talk local politics now. In Ukambani, the tide is also turning, and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is facing a fresh political rebellion after governors from the region met and resolved to rally the community towards a different political direction based majorly on development. Now, the governors Alfred Mutua, Kivutha Kibwana and Charity Ngilu accused the Wiper members of the county assemblies of frustrating their county governments and holding their development plans hostage. But as Vincent Odor now reports, leaders allied to Musyoka have accused the dissidents of destabilizing the party.
Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua, Makueni's Kivutha Kibwana and their Kitui counterpart Charity Ngilu were in Masinga constituency, where they resolved to rally the Kamba community towards a new political direction, besides forging a common front to unite the community ahead of the 2022 presidential elections.
Sisi tunataka siasa za Kenya ziwe za maendeleo. Na kiongozi ambaye atachaguliwa 2022 na miaka ambayo inayokuja awe ni kiongozi anayechaguliwa kwa sababu ni kiongozi wa maendeleo, sio kwa sababu ya ukabila.
Wengine pia Ukambani na Kenya nzima wanataka kuwa president, waitishe. Na tuache kutishwa. Kwa sababu tukitisha tukaambiwa kwamba ukiitisha unaharibia mtu mwingine. Mimi ikiwa ninaitisha na yeye anaitisha na niharibia.
The governors are accusing Wiper Party members of using their numbers in their county assemblies to frustrate their county government operations and initiatives. Now they want the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka to tame the MCAs.
Ikiwa kuna governor na kuna assembly, sio jambo la busara tukipigana. Na mimi ni profesa hiyo mambo, kwa sababu huku Makueni tulipigana. Hata leo niko hapa kwa sababu Mungu alinitetea.
However, members of parliament allied to Kalonzo Musyoka have dismissed the three leaders, arguing the MCAs are just doing their oversight roles at the counties and that Kalonzo remains their ultimate presidential candidate in next elections.
Toa viatu na uingie kwa ile chama ambayo unaona ni mzuri, wachana na chama ya Wiper. Tafadhali. Na maneno ya kuchukua party leader kama kijana, sio kijana. He has been the vice president of this country and he is the party leader of Wiper.
We actually fought for nominations, but he came like a crying baby. And we gave him a direct ticket. Little did we know that he was actually sent by his masters to come and get the chairmanship of Wiper and rock Wiper from within. And we know who his master is.
Kivutha, who is also the chairman of the Wiper party and who certainly doesn't cut the frame of a rabble rouser, has also sharpened his tongue and wit and has taken on his party leader and wants him to call for party election with the aim of replacing him as chair. Wiper legislators allied to Kalonzo Musyoka, however, accused Kibwana of unnecessarily rocking the Wiper boat. This development may set the stage for a battle of supremacy between those allied to the de facto Ukambani leader Kalonzo Musyoka and those who accuse him of having a monarchic hold on the region ahead of the 2022 political contest. Vincent Odur, NTV.
And if you must know, a number of you who are desperate for the new generation passport and definitely weighed down by the demanding process of acquiring. Now, one has fallen prey to the brokers operating outside the Nyayo House and who have been demanding hefty fees, promising to fast-track the process of acquiring the passport. The Immigration Department concedes it has tried to eliminate the brokers without much success. Director of Immigration Service, Alexander Muteshi, is now warning you to only transact with uniformed immigration officers, saying the department has set up more tents outside the building to handle the overwhelming passport requests, as Charity Mwangi now reports.
Nora Bochaberi, a resident of Kenya and the United States and currently in Kenya for the holidays, took the decision to start the grueling task of applying for the new generation passport. Her visit to Nyayo House, however, became an unforgettable experience. Upon her arrival, Nora says she was approached by a man who offered to help fast-track what's to many a strenuous process.
I went to the cyber that is, apparently it's connected with Nyayo House according to the person. So when I went there, I filled my information and then I was taken around places, and then later I was asked to pay, after all the process, I was asked to pay 50,000 Kenya shillings, which I declined. And then later, the person said we can go down to 20.
Nora says she was taken to a cyber cafe where she was charged 500 shillings just to fill out her information on the online application form. She says she was given first-class treatment thereafter. But she hadn't expected the demands made by the officers who claimed were from the Immigration Department.
When I asked them, what is this money for? They said it's to give the guys inside. So I said, this person inside, I would like to know them so that I know I'm doing, I'm doing it officially.
Nora agreed to accompany us to Nyayo House to show the extent of the con game playing out right outside the government's office and just how booming business is. We were welcomed by a lady who identified herself as Elizabeth. Her inviting smile may just be the tool of her trade. Upon establishing contact with Nora, our cameras recorded the numerous conversations between her and people she claimed were from the Immigration Department. These people, she promised, would help her get her passport faster. Security officers stationed outside kept interrupting the transaction, and she suggested they move to a more discreet location. She went ahead to inspect her passport to test her commitment to seeing this through. She then asked for 30,000 shillings as payment for her services, but Nora negotiated down to 15,000 shillings. She maintains she never intended to pay that amount.
Why would you pay this amount? Where are you getting this amount from to pay this person? This person is in the government payroll.
The Immigration Department says an increasing number of Kenyans have fallen prey to the brokers who have been minting from Kenyans desperate for the new generation passport.
The issue of the brokers is a big challenge, and we have been trying as much as possible to ensure that we keep them away from this vicinity, but they keep on coming. Avoid any person outside the precincts of this building.
The Director of Immigration, Alex Muteshi, warned Kenyans against transacting with any officer who was not in uniform.
A national passport was in the past viewed as a preserve of the privileged few. This opened up opportunity for brokers to pry on Kenyans who do not know the process of getting one. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
All right, and on that note, we begin our discussion this morning. It's Thursday, and as always, Thursday, it's in the market. We're talking about what matters to you most. And this morning, we're talking about financial probity, financial planning, how to plan ahead. And my guest in studio this morning are people I promised that I must interact with them again this year. And they're all here. Fridah Owinga, who is a financial advisor, is joining us once again this morning. Waithaka Gatumia, the CEO, Centonomy, is also joining us this morning. Manyara Kirago, a personal financial advisor, is also here. And Simon Wafubwa, the CEO, N-Wealth, is also here to talk about this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay.
You don't want to see me this morning. I'm not going to ask the questions. This year is different, right?
It's okay. It's okay. I'm ready. I'm ready for you.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, the last time we were here, we're thinking about in January, and you're back here.
Yes.
But now I want us to look ahead and begin our discussion with what we must do at this point. I want to continue this discussion from where I left it. Now, let's assume I have followed your instructions and I'm starting to plan my year quite early. I'll begin with Fridah. What must I do? It's the 10th of January. What must I do looking ahead?
Pray very hard, first of all.
Yes.
And just a little correction, Ken. I'm not a financial advisor. In
Okay.
case people
I
start
didn't want
looking
to
for
use the
that.
other title because you came
I'm a
out
business
as
breakthrough coach.
I know.
And thank you so much for having me here this morning. What must you do? Of course, number one, you must pray and trust God. But what have you been doing? Remember, we said planning doesn't start today when you're in crisis. Planning starts ahead. Planning starts with your end in mind. Always being conscious of what do you want to achieve at the end of the year. All right, so you should have started planning for today last year around August, September. But if you didn't, it's all right. It's always a new day. And number one, what do you want to achieve this month? What do you want to achieve this year? Where are you at? Looking at where you're at and measuring what you need to do to get to where you need to go is always a good place to start. So look at your accomplishments. What are your disappointments? What are some learnings? And then draw some lessons from there so that you don't make the same mistakes you made last year and make this year a better year.
Okay. And Waithaka, same question. Yeah, we've just begun the year and we're looking ahead.
Look, when it comes to this idea of financial planning and getting to the goals that we addressed last year, and first of all, thank you for inviting us back. I know it was a heated discussion last time. But, and I'm a bit concerned that you said, let's assume that you followed the advice that, I don't know why we're making assumptions.
For me,
I don't know why we're making assumptions here, but anyway, it's never too late.
Yes.
Take the time to start now. And at whatever point you find yourself, even when you find yourself in great success, because sometimes that's a point at which we can let loose, and then it's as if we forget that there's a tomorrow, even in times of great success. Because there's some who started this year with great successes. Maybe their business got the subscriptions that they thought. Maybe they got the rental income that they had not been expecting, despite what we've seen in the newspaper today. Even in times of success, it is still time for planning and still time to be able to make plans for the future, even when you are succeeding or even when you're in times of difficulty. It's never too late. Okay. So even right now, even if you didn't plan last year, as Fridah mentioned just a moment ago, take the moment now to say, what do I want? It's all about taking control of your moment and of the opportunities that are before you. Okay. So it's never too late.
What is so important for someone who has a measure of success already to plan? Why should I plan? I'm really successful. Perhaps I have more than I bargained for. Perhaps I ended the year so well. Why should I plan? And this is something that is exceeding my expectation.
Yeah, let's use the example that you gave this morning when you're reading, I think it's in the Standard,
yes,
the issue of
the landlord.
The landlords.
Yes.
You can imagine that when you are saying I am a in fact, isn't that the Kenyan dream? We always talk about the Kenyan dream as being a landlord or owning property somewhere.
Yes.
And the fact that even in a moment like that, when you think that you've gotten to the point of success without planning, if this person had not taken out some form of insurance or another source of income, then you find yourself in deep issues. So you need to plan even in times of success and say, guess what? This may not be forever. What else can I be doing? How do I begin to mitigate against the risks that are around me? So having one source of income is generally dangerous. So for instance, maybe you got a new job and you're saying, wow, this salary is amazing. Thank God for that. And we bless you as you go ahead with that. But what if that job doesn't continue for the next 5 years as you had envisioned?
Okay.
That property doesn't continue to give you rental income for the next 50 years as you had envisioned. So it's still a time for planning.
Okay. Yeah. A successful 1 year should not tell me now, you know, you've made it. Very interesting. I'd like to touch on that again, but let me bring Simon in. Same question, Simon. It's early enough, and we have a lot of time in our hands, but I was told that for this year, I should have planned for it last year. But from where you sit, what must I do right now?
I think number one is trust God. Sustainable financial success is in God. Number two is learning from the mistakes that one would have committed last year. And evaluating where they are at the moment and setting short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. Because the only constant in life is change. Age is changing. For some, they are nearing retirement. Others are adding family members. They are getting new babies. They are marrying. And that means dynamics of financial responsibilities that they are exposed to. And as such, it is extremely then important to check where one is. What are the financial priorities? For example, between age 20 to 30, the financial priorities will not be the same as someone between age 40 and 50 or 50 and 60. They are quite varied. So checking where one is, priorities, and setting goals.
Okay. Okay, priorities and setting goals. I wanted specifically to talk about priorities, prioritizing. How do we prioritize? What do we look out for? How do we divide the year while we are prioritizing? Because Waithaka has taken us to 5 years, you know, beyond the 1 year planning. I'd like to talk about that next. But let me hear now from Mr. Kirago. Tell us where we are now. Yes. What must we begin with?
You know, it's all very good to say that we must plan, we must prioritize, but that makes one assumption which is not generally correct, and that is that we know how to plan, we know how to prioritize. So the first thing and the most important thing is to increase our financial management skills, financial literacy. I find that people have got various different levels of financial literacy. And the first group, which is the main group of people, most people are in the first group. And that first group, they are the people who do not know that they do not know. They have no idea. They think that all you need to do is have a good job, good income, good business, and we are fine. Those ones don't know that they don't know. The next level of financial awareness is those who now realize that there are things that they don't know. And that's a good place to be, because once you're there, then you can start looking for the information and the skills so that you can lift yourself to the next level, which is now conscious competence, where now you know the principles of management, you know how to prioritize, you know how to invest, you know how to save, you know all those things that are required. That time you're at conscious competence. Beyond that now, the top level is mastery, financial mastery. Now, when you have financial mastery, you don't even have to think about what you're doing. You just automatically do the right things. It's just like when you're driving a car. If you've been driving for, say, 5-10 years, you don't even think, oh, now it's time for me to step on the brakes, time for me to step. No, it just happens automatically.
and that is financial mastery. So
Okay.
the first thing we should do is increase our financial skills so that to be able now to do the planning which we need to do.
And that includes speaking to a financial advisor, going to school.
Absolutely. Now, there are so many books available. There are so many websites. There are so many YouTube videos available. What you need to do once you're aware that you don't know, when looking for those skills, is look for those sources of information. Personally, that's what I do. My main job is to help people through the journey from incompetence, unconscious incompetence to mastery. And how I do that is I offer free videos via YouTube channel, which is Money Skills with Manyara Kirago, where I give tips on how to manage finances. When somebody becomes aware that they don't know, then what I offer is personal finance books and also a personal finance course, which is online.
Okay.
And in fact, I have a free one, which I invite viewers to go and visit. Just go visit financial-counseling.com, and there will be a course there, a short money mastery class, a master class.
Okay.
So they can learn from there.
All right. This discussion is now open, and the question is, for those people who have no financial increment this year, they have nothing. They are the same place they were last year, January. What happens to them? It's open now.
You start where you're at with what you have. I mean, you make it sound so dismal, like the world is ending, you have nothing. You have life. As long as you have life, you can always go on. And I always encourage people as a coach that you need to have a support system around you. Oftentimes when people struggle, struggling is a sign that you don't have the right support. And there's different kinds of support. You need a success support. I like what Manyara has said, that if you don't know, if you don't know that you don't know, then go and get the skills that you need. At Passion Profit, we help you integrate life and work so that you can create wealth and enjoy the life that you're living. Because the finances that you're planning for, what is your life like? What is your lifestyle? So we find it very prudent to first design the life that you want, and how much is that life going to cost you. So starting where you're at, this is where I am, that is where I need to be in 12 months, that is where I need to be in 5 years, in 24 years, whatever. The key thing is life. Life is the constant in this, that as long as you're alive, you're breathing, trusting in God who has put you here, then you can find the help that you need. So if you're struggling, get the support that you need. For success support, you need a coach, you need a mentor, you need an advisor, a trusted advisor in that area. So you don't just need one person, you need different people to help you manage where you are struggling. So if you're struggling, get the right support. All right, you need, because when we're looking at finances, we're not just looking at ourselves as individuals, we're looking at the family, we're looking at the community. So we need to look at it holistically. So for me, I'd say, where do you want your life to be at the end of the year? And what work are you willing to do? Because we are compensated according to the work that we do. And work is not just employment. Work is contributing value, whether as a self-employed person or as an employed person. It is the value that you are contributing that will create the wealth that you desire. So start where you're at, and if you don't know where you're at, you can get support so that it's not like the world is ending.
Easy said than done, because I'm looking at someone who has begun the year with no financial increment in terms of salary, in terms of bonuses. There are people who got bonuses, huge bonuses, no bonuses. There are people who have no increment in terms of salary, no better job prospects. They are where they are last year with the same challenges. Those are the people I'm looking at, because they're thinking, I began the year where I was, I don't know what will happen. I can't predict next month. Perhaps I'll have a new job. But what if this year continues the way last year was? What happens?
Look, Ken, it is, we have to stop babying each other. Let us be real. This life, you will not be handed anything on a silver platter. And anything that comes to you easy, you will not value. So we must grow up and realize that if you want something, you have to go get it. When I listen to many pundits, and I've listened to them even on this show, saying there are no jobs, and I wonder. I go online and I go to websites, Brighter Monday and all the other ones, even on your own classified in these newspapers that are in front of us.
There must be jobs.
There are jobs. The problem is we do not have qualified people for these jobs. And so the advice that you're hearing from this amazing panel of people is that if you don't have the skills, go get the skills. If you don't have the opportunity, find the opportunity. You see, the problem is many of us are waiting for this wealth to just land on us. It just comes from the sky. Everyone who has created wealth, suddenly they just fell into it. They tripped and fell and they became wealthy. No. Like you must take control of your life and say, guess what? There's something that I want and I'm willing to go after it. When we sit and we say, this is all I have, this is what I can do, the government, serikali nisaidie, everybody else is talking about, we are saying that we have not taken control of our own destiny. Yeah. And we are hearing people here saying that God has given you talents, He has given you gifts, He has given you abilities, and the last one, He has given you opportunities. Let me tell you this, Ken, right now in this country, there are opportunities for every single Kenyan for growth. But you must identify the opportunity and prepare yourself to take that opportunity. The fact that you are not prepared is the issue. So begin by, as you had wonderful advice, saying if you don't know, learn. So that it's not the end of it's not the end of the world that where you are is where you are. Take the opportunity and run with it. At St. Onomy, we study successful people. Nobody has ever really truly found success without having to go after it. It doesn't fall into your hands. You go and get it. You say, this is what I want.
With it.
And I'm going. Even those who are born with it. I was listening to this gentleman called Rubenstein yesterday, and he's an owner of a huge hedge fund. And he says sometimes being born into wealth can actually be a disability because you are not hungry to go and achieve. He talks about his own children. He said, I'm not giving them any inheritance. I'll give them an education, the best education I can give them. The rest of my money I'm giving away. Why? Because I want them to be hungry. Then they'll find success. Let them be like me.
Interesting. There is a joke that flies around that one of the people you can't advise is a wealthy person. I don't know.
You can't advise.
Yeah. What I would say, Ken, is that often financial success is in 80% discipline and 20% knowledge.
Where's the hard work?
Wow. Yeah, you see, discipline. Yeah. That's the hard work. Because
what comes inside discipline?
You realize that if we talk about, we have to go beyond the financial knowledge. If you look at bankers, and they have quite a lot of exposure to financial knowledge, but sadly, in some instances, you notice there could be some of the clients to my friend here, because then someone has to help to coach, to nurture discipline, so that you remain the course. And it's the case like a football team, you have 11 shillings, all playing in the field. You want to win the game. So some will play defense, and some will play midfield, and some will play offense. That is the stocks, the shares. The defense is like property for capital protection. But the team must have a coach so that you can be able to know which shilling is playing which position. And in nurturing that discipline, you have to position strategically, once in a while, substitute which particular shilling is not doing very well for you, so that you can gain on the opportunities emerging in the market. And so discipline in a big way for me is influenced by the people one works with. If the people, the company of people one works with can either inspire or expire the dream we have. And so it's extremely important to be careful in the choice of friends, because they have a long-term impact in our financial sustainability.
Oh,
yes.
Way. Okay.
Very true. Peer pressure is it can either be very destructive or very positive. And I like what my colleagues here are saying. And Waithaka said about going out and getting opportunities, going out and fighting for yourself. Now, one thing we must remember, for any meaningful change to occur, we need to improve ourselves. We need to invest in ourselves. You don't just sit there and expect things to come in and fall into your hands. You have to invest in yourself. You must invest your effort, your money, and your time. Instead of just going all the time and for entertainment, you can spend some of that time to learn a few things. You can spend some of your money to take some to learn some information, which will help you move to the next level. And you talked about football team and coaching, and that's really, really critical, because knowing the skills will take you to one level. Now, if you're going to go to the mastery level, you'll either take a long time on your own, or if you go with a coach, it'll be much faster. And that's why even all the top people in any field you look at, you care to look at, you'll find that they have a coach. Whether it's sports or business field, you'll find that they have a coach, and that coach enables them to overcome any challenges that they may encounter, because some of them we may not be even aware that there's a challenge, because of our upbringing, because of our mindset, and a coach will help you overcome those. So we need to actually take charge, not just sit there and hope for a better pay, and you think that will solve everything. That will not.
Yeah. Okay. And I would say, resources are not scarce, only resourceful minds are.
Absolutely.
Same thing, Waithaka said.
Yes.
Same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same thing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. We're taking a short break at the top of the hour. We will be back with this discussion. And when we come back, one thing I want to understand, how to improve yourself. I want to talk about how to improve yourself in the new year, and prioritizing the areas. How do we prioritize what areas? Do we also have to learn what areas to prioritize? Or this is in yourself. You look at yourself, you assess your need, and you prioritize. I also like to know, there's a notion that the only way to grow is through borrow. You have to borrow. And if you borrow, must you have a plan in the borrowing? Or can I go to borrowing blindly? Because I've heard that the only way to grow is if I borrow and do something with the money. If I'm employed, like I am employed here, I am in Aga Khan's business, I'm minding Aga Khan's business, but at the end of it, I have to mind my own business. So I'd like to understand all that. Stay with us. We're taking a short break on AM Live. Today is Thursday, and it's in the market. When we come back, we will talk about all those. And of course, when we come back, I'll also correct, Fridah Owinga is a breakthrough coach, passion prophet. We'll be back. And welcome back to AM Live. This is Thursday, and every Thursday we have what's happening in the market. And today we are talking about financial planning. We're just 10 days into the new year, and this is the time you need to take time off, learn something new, and you have to manage your finances, because at the end of the year, we don't want to be talking about the same thing. So I have a panel in studio, and that discussion continues shortly. But first, the BBC is reporting this morning that Felix Tshisekedi, the opposition leader, has been named the winner in the Democratic Republic of Congo general election with 38.5% of the votes. He garnered about 7 million votes, followed closely by another opposition candidate, Martin Fayulu, who had 6.4 million votes, and Emmanuel Shadari, who has 4.4 million votes. If you don't know about Felix Tshisekedi, he is the son of the late veteran opposition leader, Etienne Tshisekedi, who also ran several times but was not successful. I'd like to show you that's just this organogram of the former president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And let me begin with the first one. That is Joseph. I don't know why my touch screen is misbehaving, but I have to get it. So Joseph Kasavubu, first independent presidential president. He took office, but within a month, the United Nations peacekeepers destroyed that presidency amid political unrest. Then the person who came next was the first independent Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, who was sacked and then assassinated in 1961, followed closely by Mobutu Sese Seko, who is also very well known after Patrice, who by 1965 was also out through a coup. Then he was followed by, he was back, I think. Then there was also Mobutu again, who was overthrown in 1997. But the story that we all know in our generation is that of Laurent Kabila, who was assassinated in 2001, and then he was succeeded by then his son, who was just a youth. I think he was just over 30 years old at that time, in 2001, and he has been president for 18 years, and he has said that he will hand over power to the first opposition candidate who wins the election in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the Electoral Commission in DRC says that they can provisionally declare Felix as elected president with about 38% of the total 38.5% of the total votes that were cast. It's taken a long time to count the votes in the DRC, but finally they have the provisional results declaring Felix Tshisekedi as the presidential or president-elect of the Democratic Republic of Congo. All right, let's come back now to in the market and the discussion this morning. My panel coming back to talk about financial issues and give advice, because I think I'm taking more advice than anyone here, is Fridah Owinga, who is the breakthrough coach at Passion Profit. I think I've corrected, but you sound more as a financial advisor. Please accept the title.
Maybe when I grow up. After hanging with this guy, I will probably be an advisor.
Waithaka Gatumia, he's the CEO of Centonomy, I think 2 months old in that position.
Yeah, just about.
About 2 months old. And Manyara, Kirago, a personal financial planner, and of course Simon Wafubwa, who is the CEO of NWAL. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for coming this morning. Let's begin this hour with discussing prioritizing the areas that we need to. How do we prioritize? And I begin with Fridah. We have began the year, 10 days into the year, and we're looking through, we have 12 months. We have about 355 days. And I like what Waithaka said. We have the opportunities. The opportunities for all of us now are equal. All of us, same hours, same days and all. But how do we prioritize? Now that we've spoken about, we can't increase if we don't go for it. How do we prioritize the areas now?
Thank you so much, Ken. At Passion Profit, like I said earlier, we focus on life and work. So in helping you integrate life and work, we have a 3-step formula that we use. And in the 3-step formula, the first part is looking at your past. what are your past accomplishments, what are your past disappointments, and what are your past learnings. And that data helps us to uncover what are your limiting beliefs and behaviors that brought those results, because results don't happen in a vacuum. Results are what you did, your tasks and activities, that's what produces those accomplishments, disappointments, and learnings. We use that data to create your new reality or design the new reality that you want. So after we've gotten that data, then we look at what stopped you, what are the limiting beliefs, what are the limiting behaviors, and we help you create new guidelines that will help you to keep moving forward. For instance, we had a lady who had started a business. She was in it 2 years, and she was not earning a salary. And she was not earning a salary because her limiting belief was that she doesn't have money, she's a new business. And that was driving a behavior for her not to draw a salary. But when we looked at her financials, she had money to draw a salary. Her fear was she will not make enough money because she was coming from a corporate background. She will not make enough money to sustain her family and the business. So we gave her a new guideline, I have money, and using the principles of God, that God supplies all your needs according to his riches in glory. So we don't just talk God, but we also use biblical and financial principles. So that became one of her guidelines. And then looking at the way forward, we help you create 10 goals based on 8 rules, because oftentimes you hear people saying, I'm wearing many hats. So in the process, it's a one-day strategy, and we look at what are the different roles that you wear and which are the ones that you're going to prioritize in the next 12 months. Because life is lived one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. So in the next 8 months, in the next 12 months, which are the 8 roles that you're going to focus on? I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a business leader, I'm a church leader. What is the impact that you want to have in your home, in your business, and in your community? And then we help you design 10 goals out of those 8 roles, and then you leave with a 1-page strategy plan of what you're going to do in the year to come. You have your guidelines, we review your values, and we give you guidelines that will help you when the self-limiting beliefs and behaviors are going to stop you, so that you end up having the remarkable results that you want. So we do that on the side of the person, so you integrate your life and work. On the side of your business, we have a 5-step profit formula to help you make profit. We ensure that your business makes profit using this 5-step profit formula. We look at how are you generating leads. And because most of the time when you ask business owners, how are you generating leads? The most popular answer is word of mouth and referrals, which is great, but it is not predictable. You don't know when the next word of mouth will come. You don't know when the next referral will come. We have 8 lead generation strategies, and you don't need all 8 of them. You just need a mix of 2 or 3. And then we have how do you convert these leads? So we help you with conversion strategies to make sure that the leads you're generating convert using what we call a conversion equation formula. The conversion equation formula helps you to design messages that are compelling and attractive for your target audience. When you introduce yourself, Ken, and people tell you, oh, that's nice, Ken, you are impressing. But when you introduce yourself and people say, tell me more, can I have your number, where are you located? Then your introduction was compelling. So we help you design compelling messages so you can compel and attract the right target audience. Because most of the time people introduce themselves and say, I'm a financial advisor, I'm a marketer, I'm an accountant, which is great, but it doesn't really tell me the solution you are providing. Okay. So with the conversion equation formula, we help you design messages that are attractive, irresistible, and compelling, that causes people to want to know more about what it is you do. So conversion, and then we look at your pricing, because most of the time people are competing on pricing, but you need to compete on value. Because when you start competing on pricing, oh, I went to company XYZ, they're doing the same thing, give me 500 less. No, you compete on value. So when you look at what is the value that you're bringing to the market, there's something we help you create called a market dominating position. So people don't even ask you about the price, they see the value front and center. So we look at your pricing strategies, and finally we look at your business model. A lot of people have a big office and they don't need it. That is eating up your profit. How are you chasing the people who owe you money? Okay. Sometimes we start chasing the people who owe you money when you're broke, and then you're harassing the other person because you didn't have a proper plan in place. So the 5-step profit formula helps you to consistently generate leads so that you're making the cash that you need for the business and for yourself, so that you create a life and work that you're happy about.
I don't know who told you about me, but you just described me. You've just described me. You've just described me. And I'm interested, before I skip, I'm interested in generating the leads.
Yes.
Do you use the messages I give you, the information I give you, to frame this to something that fits?
Yes, we have a process that we find out about you. What are your strengths? What is your company about? What does your company want to do? And what is the market looking for?
Okay.
So that we align that.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
And I like what you said also before I skip, the lady who did not want to take salary.
She was not taking a salary.
I think the first rule is pay yourself first. Is
Yeah.
that the first rule?
We
Pay
use
yourself
the profit first formula.
Yeah, then pay taxes, then
Yes.
pay your workers. Is it?
Absolutely.
Okay, talk to me, Waithaka, now.
Yes.
Talk to me about prioritizing and how to do this.
Okay, I mean, there's the general rule of thumb, especially around personal financial management and wealth creation, that you're thinking as a youth, that you're looking for growth opportunities. You're looking for high return, and so most likely you'll take higher risk. So when we're talking to young people, we're saying get into business, try something new, always try those things to grow, so that you're hopefully putting your money where it'll grow over time. When you're in middle age, now you're starting to think about consolidation and about to think, where can we begin to, all these different things that we've been planning, bringing them together so that they're pushing you in the right direction. And then finally, when you're thinking about in the area of retirement, you're looking for income. These are the general rules of thumb, because when you're in retirement, one of the biggest issues when it comes to financial planning in retirement is income. I think this story of landowners is a big issue. You'll find somebody, they've retired, they have millions in land, but they have no cash. And so income becomes an issue when it comes to retirement. I said these are general rules of thumb, because you will find somebody at a different point in their life deciding that even now, as I'm going into my retirement, I've not raised the amount of money that I want. There's nothing to consolidate and there's nothing to generate income. Who am I to say that in your 50s that you cannot create a successful business that will grow exponentially even faster than the millennials are building a business?
You should ask Sanders.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So I'm saying I never like to put people into boxes. Each one of us has our own journey and our own abilities. And so at Centonomy, we are committed to helping you figure out what do you want, and then how to give you the skills on how to get there. Whether it is in your personal finance, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's career development, we are committed to help you to figure out what do you want, and then give you the skills on how to get there. Because it doesn't matter the age. I told you those are general rules of thumb, and I think we can speak about that openly here. But I know that there's somebody in their 50s who's watching and saying, but I've not gained what I want. And I'm saying to you who's watching, believe me, there are those who have started businesses in their 50s, in their 60s, and have found great success. There's that young person who, I don't know, maybe they're a music artist and they released a single and they suddenly had millions of shillings that they didn't have before. By the way, there's a way that you can begin to control that wealth that will give you income for your lifetime. So I'm not about putting people in boxes.
Okay. And Simon, same thing, prioritizing.
Yes. Yeah. Now, most people actually do a lot of set goals, so many of them, and some would go, you'll have a list as high as 20. I'm a believer in few but achievable.
Okay.
Because 80% of the results you get from 20% effort, from what you focus on, the Pareto principle. So as you said here, from what Fridah has already guided, self-assessment is key, but after analyzing where you are from the financial planning perspective, look at what is it that you can start to save with. And one area is pension. We look after a portfolio of about 62 billion in pension assets. And occasionally we do research with Strathmore University, and the income replacement ratios in Kenya at retirement is extremely still low compared to the World Bank expectations. So at age 60 you find still people who have worked for 30, 40 years are still not able to have sustainability financially in retirement. And one key challenge is healthcare. If you're above age 60, consider even having a basic medical insurance cover with even NHIF, because it does exist. And if you want to go further, you can come to NWealth. We have a medical cover even for retirees up to age 90. And the beauty about saving through retirement pension is that you not only enhance tax efficiency, But you also generate growth by way of good return. Like in 2017, our return was 18% through our annual personal pension plan. 2018, we are still finalizing audit. But with the growth accumulation of return, one is able to have a significant pool of resources for fallback in retirement. And then the other key thing I would like just to also observe is that what Waithaka has observed is the area of property. I had a very interesting experience in 2017. A client walked into my office. They have a property portfolio. This is real. Property portfolio of about 400 million. But they had no cash. Now, 2 of their kids were in the US, masters, annual fee 4 million each. And the deadline for rent payment for their children was like in about 3 days ahead. And they had just gotten a deadline email asking that you make payment of this money by this particular date. And it was a crisis. Something strange about properties, when you really want to sell,
you don't have a buyer. Yes.
And when you're not selling, it's when many people
so many inquiries about it.
So it's extremely important that whatsoever stage of life one is, diversification. You not only enhance risk management for your investments, but also you enhance, you have a portion of funds that you can easily convert to near cash to be able to meet your immediate financial goals and obligations.
About diversification, before I let you, diversification, I was told that you need to focus on what you're best at.
But even in that, you still have to have some semblance of diversification. And when we talk about diversification, in the research we did with Strathmore University, we noted that between age 50 to and above, Kenyans, over 90% of their wealth is in property. In fact, I saw a funny advert driving along some road. Mutu ni ploti. And it was very interesting. So the challenge with that then is that even in property, you still have to diversify, because you find certain regions may not give you as good rental yield. And even within the property asset classes, you still have to diversify as part of risk management.
Okay.
Ken, just to respond to you specifically,
yes.
You asked, I should focus on what I'm good at.
Yes.
Just in your case, you're excellent at what you're doing right now. I mean, we enjoy coming to this show because of what you do. Continue doing that, and that will give you an income that you can then invest elsewhere.
Right. Okay.
That's what we're trying to talk about. So there's a difference between saying I'll only focus on one kind of investment.
I only focus on putting up buildings.
Do what you're doing, and then use the income from that to diversify.
Something else. Yes.
And it's a very big challenge that you find. That's what Fridah keeps on bumping. You find first time you meet someone who has 10 business cards and they have just gotten into business.
And they have 10.
Yes, they have already 10. So they need, I usually say, they need some sort of family planning, entrepreneurial family planning. It is horrible.
Okay, Manyara, something. Yes.
Now, I think, my fellow panelists have mentioned the key areas of our focus when you're planning our finances, and that is retirement, children's education, and so forth. Now, in deciding which one is applicable to you as an individual, you have to look at where are you. Like Waithaka said, Fridah, one of you said that when you're in the 20s, your goals will probably be very different from somebody who's in the 50s. So you look at your situation and decide among those general areas of interest, that is home ownership, retirement, children's education, and so forth, which one is of interest, and then invest appropriately. And that is the key, and that is what is missing when people find that they have a lot of property and yet they don't have money, because the problem is they didn't invest according to their goals. The investments must be goal-driven. You're not investing to invest. In fact, investing is not a goal by itself. Investing is a means to achieve a goal.
Okay.
So if you don't invest appropriately, if you don't invest with a goal in mind, you may end up with a lot of investments and yet you are unable to achieve the goals.
Okay.
So that is how we prioritize. And another thing which I think we need to be said, and that we need to prioritize on, is also having an emergency fund.
Okay.
Because a lot of the issues, a lot of the stresses which we go through is because we do not have any money for emergencies. So when something unexpected happens, we are there rushing to the SACCO for emergency loans, or even worse, rushing to borrow from those mobile applications which charge an arm and a leg in interest, because we had not been prepared. And if one thing can be depended on is that the unexpected will always happen.
Okay.
So we must be prepared.
Okay. The reason why I asked this question about prioritizing is because obviously we have people who are new people who are coming into jobs, new people who are coming into business. The example you gave, a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old, definitely the thinking is different, the priorities are different. But when you get a 50-year-old thinking like a 20-year-old, I don't think anyone would advise that a 50-year-old would start thinking like a 20-year-old. But now the problem comes in where a 20-year-old wants to think like a 50-year-old. I get into a job today, 22 years old, 24, my first job, I'm thinking about home ownership. I am a student of Poor Dad, Rich Dad, right? And the first thing I learned is owning a home at 20 is a liability. Probably someone will not understand, but if you read, you'll tell it's a liability. And when you are prioritizing these people now, who has the greatest burden? A 50-year-old thinking like a 20-year-old, which means a lot of things have flown through, a lot of water that has gone through. He didn't think ahead, right? Or a 20-year-old thinking like a 50-year-old. I don't know, it's open.
I think the 50-year-old will be in a lot of trouble if he thinks about like a 20-year-old.
But just remember, this 50-year-old is more focused. He knows what he wants. He says, I'm retiring in 6-7 years, right? I need a home. I need to set up my family. All these things have to happen.
Unfortunately, if he's thinking like a 20-year-old, then he will not be thinking about retirement. He will not be thinking. He'll be thinking the nice car.
Yeah, nice car, yes.
You know, that kind of thing. So you need to think at your age. And also at your wage.
Then you will fault the 20-year-old who wants to buy a home at 20.
At your age, at your wage.
That will fault. Will you fault this guy? Yeah.
You see,
you're asking hard questions. You're asking hard questions.
And also another thing.
Yes.
Another thing. We cannot all of us think the same way. You see, financial goals are driven by person's values, and we all have different values.
Okay.
There are some people to whom having a big home is really priority to them. You can't say they are wrong, you can't say they are right, but that's what they value.
But at what age, prioritizing, at what age should I start thinking of having that grand home in Lavington or somewhere along Langata Road?
At your age. At your age, it's a good guideline.
Okay.
Because even if you're 22 and you have a huge income, then having that home is not a problem.
Then what will you do when you're 50?
Well,
I don't know. Ken, I don't believe in this age thing because I'm old already.
No.
But I think it's a good thing. But I think the key thing, I like that you're using the word thinking.
Yes.
Because you're thinking, how you're thinking, your life will follow your thoughts, right? Because as a man thinks, so is he. So where you're at when you come to this awareness that I need to plan my life, where are you at and where do you plan to be? All right. And then start there, irrelevant of your age.
Okay.
All right. I was reading something, all these forwards that go around. I think it was actually a very intelligent lady on LinkedIn that was saying, refuse the boxes of success, that you can only get a PhD. You need to get your PhD before you're 30. There are people who have gotten their PhDs at 94. So it's all about your paradigm. It's all about how you think. And when you become aware that this is what I want in life and this is where I am, this is what I need to do. I don't think that there's age with God. Okay, because God tells us, and I'm a strong believer of God, I have no apologies about it, that is my anchor. And when you look at God, and the people that were old are the people that were crossing rivers and doing stuff, and people think that is Bible days. The truth is God is the same, he has not changed, and he's my anchor. So it really depends on your philosophy. And sometimes too much intelligence is a problem. I'm sorry to say that, because when you're too intelligent, then you forget that there's a God behind this intelligence, and then you start allowing the philosophy of the world to guide you. But if you become radical and allow I don't want to say a balance, but you acknowledge that you live in this world, you're not of this world, and there's a God that is driving the affairs of this world, then the equation doesn't become about age.
Okay.
The equation becomes about why are you here? What are you here to achieve? And what are you going to do about it? And start now. Don't wait when you're 50. This 80-year-old who has just gotten multi-millionaire, I don't know what are they going to be thinking like?
They'll go to a fund manager somewhere.
So I'm with Waithaka on the age box.
If they're aware, yes, I agree. I agree.
Become self-aware and guide you and map out what you want to do. And go for
this
it.
Issue
Have
of
fun.
prioritizing in life is really difficult, and I'll tell you how difficult it is.
Get
right now
support.
we have interns, we have people who are just through high school, right? And they get these small-time jobs where they're paid 6,000 a week or 2,000 a day or 1,500 a day, and they're thinking in a month I have 30,000, 45,000. Then they ask themselves, why do I need to go to school? You know, why I'm already having the money? You're talking about the 22-year-old who's got into sudden wealth that they can consider having a home, right? Now he's wondering, what will I do at 50? And he starts investing that money right now. Then the question is, what do they do when they are 50? What happens? But then I go back to what Waithaka said, you know, if you don't plan long term, by the time you're 50, you'll not have anything right now. So you'll not have anything. I like to take this discussion out of context a little and still on prioritizing. I have 10 million shillings. Hypothetically, I have 10 million. You can give me if you have it, but I don't have it. I have 10 million shillings, and I am supposed to prioritize where to invest the 10 million shillings. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about sudden wealth, lotteries, right? These people who come into sudden money. How do they choose what to invest in? Education? How do they choose sudden wealth into your hands? Because there are a lot of people going through all this year. They're going to get into this money, right?
Let me tell you this.
Yes.
For me,
be careful, because I know you guys, and I'm going to be very careful with my words here, because I know you guys get a lot of sponsorship from these companies, so I will not name any of them.
Don't.
I will say this.
Yes. Get thrown out.
We are very easy come, easy go. Anytime that you earn something without having, I mean, you get something without earning,
yes,
you don't understand the value. And I challenge you, go online and study lottery winners. Very few times will you find that they have had any success in their life. They probably die early because they didn't even know how to manage that well. So let's not talk about that. However, you can get a windfall. For instance,
yes,
let's say musicians have really caught my attention, because, you know, if you get a wonderful song out as an artist, you can immediately get a lot of cash coming towards you because there's success there. Another way that you can get money like that is, for instance, inheritance. Suddenly, there's money that
like
comes your way.
A 6-year-old, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So just the same advice that we usually give everybody else. Stop. Before you do anything else, stop and think. And say, what matters to me now? What do I want to achieve? Get the help that you need and begin to think, okay, great, there's this 10, you know, 10 million sounds like a lot today. You know, if, to many of us with 10 million, let me tell you, you can finish 10 million in an afternoon.
Yes.
What do you mean in a week?
Oh, okay.
An afternoon on one transaction.
Yeah, depends on what you're doing with it.
One transaction, not even in different countries.
Right.
You can buy a car right now,
yes.
go into a dealership and you live with
Now
a car for 10 million and you don't even have a house to go and park that car in. So 10 million is not a lot of money. It's now to sit down and think, how can this help me grow?
Long term.
And so when we sit in our classes at St. Autonomy, we begin to talk about the skills of money management, that you're able to say, do I want this money to give me a slow income over time? And you start thinking about, what investments can I do? Is it real estate? Is it bonds? Am I looking for this money to be able to help me to grow rapidly? So can I invest some of that in a business that will give me high return? Or will I invest in other people's businesses, in private equity, or going directly into the stock market? So priority for somebody who has gotten a windfall, and I pray that they have not gotten it through some of these things that we have said here, lotteries and things like that, because there's not, but it is a lie. I will say this. Take a moment, just like we have been speaking about here, financial planning, the principles of financial planning do not change. Sit down, think, how will this help me grow over time? And that's this principle that we talk about.
Okay.
Wow, Ken, you have hard questions. Let me tell you.
Are we done with that, Simon, or you want to add something?
The dilemma with a windfall is sort of you. When one is used to an income level of around, say, 100,000 per month, and they get 10 million, there is a psychological imbalance that is occasioned in the brain, in a way that you are used for a very long time at that level of 100. So you've got to, generally people look for how do one quickly reduce that 10 million to go back into that steady state. We call it that financial steady state, the equilibrium position. And if you, that then goes back to the discipline of where do I save this money immediately? Have you ever noticed something that anytime you have a lot of money is when you get so many calls?
Exactly. How do they know I have this money?
So and so is
you smell wealthy.
Because the Bible says money answereth to the needs.
Yes.
So it has to answer. Now, if you haven't assigned a specific need to the money, it will have to answer to other things. Someone is admitted, someone is carjacked, whatever.
That's the kind of things happen.
Yes.
You even wonder.
And still around that, the dilemma also in our societies, we have so many dependents. And in some communities, the cousin of the neighbor, of the sister, of the brother
is your direct dependent.
And you still, at this point, you still have to pay school fees. What I generally guide is that before you save other people, save your family first.
Okay.
But Ken, I forgot to mention, please.
Go ahead.
After you've thought and you've prioritized the cash, part of that, this is my personal belief, part of the priority should also be some celebration, but afterthought. Because sometimes we say, oh, save all the cash. No. But after you've planned and you've put some aside and go and have a wonderful dinner. Yes, you must.
Regular income.
100%.
Yes.
Celebration.
Yes.
You have to.
You have to enjoy life.
You have to enjoy life. Because life, life is
absolutely.
Someone was going to call in, I'm sure, and ask, Kwani, I don't enjoy my... No.
Okay.
Please do.
In fact, it's 7:30, so we have to allow the callers now. They can call and ask their questions as soon as we have them calling. The phone lines will be on your screen shortly. If you have a question to my panel here, ask and they shall answer. That sounds like the Bible. All right. I want to talk about something else. Very interesting indeed. Growing, improving yourself in the new year, right? Borrowing with a plan or without a plan. I want you guys to talk to me about borrowing. Yes. Where do we start? Borrowing. I'll give you a story because I like telling stories. So I'll give you a story. The first loan I ever took was about 200,000 from the cooperative bank. That was a while ago when I was just starting work. And so when I got the money, I didn't have a proper plan. So when the money was approved, it was a lot of money. It was like 4 times my salary at that time. So the first thing I did was to walk to Nakumatt Mega and I bought a television set. The second thing I did was to buy a home theater, right? Total cost about 80,000 straight.
Were you 22?
Probably 23, 24, right? Now I started thinking I had remember there's that fee that they charge, the ledger fee, so you don't get the whole amount, 200, you get about 190, 187. So by the time I was thinking straight, the money was about 100,000 remaining. All right. So that's my story. That's my story about borrowing.
You have confessed your sins to help each one of us, and each one of us has
I think this issue of debt is something we really need to be aware about, because debt can either destroy you or build you. It depends on what you do with the money and how much you borrow and where you borrow from. All the financial planners keep on talking good debt, bad debt. And most people really don't understand what is good debt, what's bad debt. Now, a good debt is when you borrow money and you invest it in something that's appreciating. Like, for instance, you've borrowed something like that money from the SACCO. Instead of buying furniture, instead of buying a TV, if you had bought a rental or put deposit for a rental house, probably by now you'd probably be worth a lot more than spending it on furniture. So that is a good debt. A bad debt is when you borrow money and go for a holiday I know that has happened to a lot of people this Christmas. They took loans, they took SACCO loans, they took loans from the bank, and they went to the coast or they went wherever and spent even up country. And now they're having to pay back money which really for all purposes, in terms of purposes, is not giving
Spend
value.
in a week, 4 days.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and also weddings, doing borrowing money to do weddings. Those are all bad debts. So you need to first of all identify a good debt. A good debt is when you borrow to buy something appreciating, or borrow to invest in business, or borrow to invest in yourself to improve your skills. Those are good debts.
Okay.
Let me give you an example, Ken, if you don't mind. We are a wonderful explanation of it. Let's actually speak practically. We have really talked badly about mobile loans here, and we say mobile loans are dangerous, but it's exactly what you said, that debt is like fire. Fire is neither good nor bad, it's how you use it. Let's give an example of a person who goes out and borrows 2,000 shillings on their phone to buy some unga, some oil, and goes and cooks mandazis. They take that money for 2,000, and in that same day, they create 4,000 from the sales of those mandazis. Pay back that loan, and they have some cash for living. Do you see how positive that is? The danger is, Ken, when you and I borrow that same 2,000 and cross the road here and go to one of these coffee houses and spend it on one meal, and we've not actually generated anything out of it. So we have to be very practical about how we can use debt in order to grow. Okay. So when we borrow for consumption, what does that mean? We borrow to buy things that are not giving us what the example that you gave.
Yes.
There's a danger in that same space, because you can just get into a cycle of borrowing. Okay. I wanted to give a simple example.
Frida, you'll have an opportunity to respond to that, but I'm told Lillian from Nairobi is on the phone and she has a question. Lillian, good morning.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
I'm very fine. Talk to us, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much for bringing this guest to the studio. I'm one of those people who is in a quagmire. Now, I am employed and I earn a salary, and I have been able to save some money, and I have bought a plot. So now I want to put up a hostel project. Kindly advise on the best financial options for me, because my salary is not enough to raise the capital for that kind of project.
Okay, you're looking for advice on the best option for you to raise money to bring up the project, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've spoken about a few where to do this, but anyone can go. Then Frida, you can respond to that, or you can touch on that as you respond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Lillian. Thank you for calling in. The thing about, it's like you put the cart before the horse. It's a good, when you started to think about planning a hostel, did you have a budget? Do you have a business plan to show how this hostel is going to do? How much money do you need to go in it? What are your projections? What is the research that you have done to show that where you have built your hostel, you're going to have traffic, and you're going to have people that are going to be coming to the hostel? It's a little difficult to give you advice on what you need to do without all the information, especially in the absence of your business plan, or whether it is a written document or in your head how you are thinking that this thing will give you money, because everybody who's going to give you money needs to see how you're going to generate money to pay them. So it's a good idea. However, I personally would need more information to know what were you thinking and how much money is it going to generate, so that how much extra do you need to finish it, and when you finish it, what will it generate, so that you'll be able to pay whoever loans you the money, whether it is a bank or an investor.
Okay, I would understand where Lillian is coming from. Probably she lives next to an institution, so she's seeing students come and go, and she wants to do that. The only thing she's looking for, do I probably look for a SACCO? Do I look for a long-term facility like a mortgage, because she has a plot, she can mortgage it? Or does she borrow from friends or something? I think your answer is correct. Probably she needs to look at how to get back the money to pay for it, because it will determine the facility she takes,
the person who will give her that money.
Yes, the person who will give her that money. Now,
that's wisdom.
Wisdom.
When it's so difficult to give, you know, Frida has responded like a doctor. If you go to a doctor and tell them
I
only
don't like
one
making
symptom, and they give you drugs based on that one symptom, it may be dangerous. And so we need to have a full picture, because there are many options, including you can be able to maybe not necessarily start with the hostels, maybe start with simpler housing units that are there that can generate the cash that will get there. I mean, there are many options that are there depending on the situation. So I completely agree. You need more information
on that. Yes, but she's a good. She can save, because if she can save and buy a plot, you know, from her salary, she's doing a good job. A lot of us can't. A lot of us. I can't save. I told you the story about my mom telling me, please save. What do I save? I don't have it. So you can respond to the question that I asked about
the borrowing.
Yes, the 10 million. Yes.
Okay. About the 10 million, I definitely go with Waithaka on stop and think, and then, from the business perspective of things, before you borrow, why are you borrowing? I'm a big stickler for your end in mind. Steve Covey, always starting with the end in mind. Why do you need extra money? And how are you going to pay for that money? And also what Manyara said, how is that money going to increase? So I'm not of the opinion that debt is good or bad. It's about why are you taking it? The why will always expose whether it is good or bad. And how is it going to be, how will you generate more, and how will you give it back? So stop and think and get support if you don't know. I find a lot of times we get stuck and then we try to, you know, tunajikaza too, but you can get help. There's lots of help available. Find out who can help you manage that 10 million, but stop and think, absolutely. Okay, stop and think, absolutely. And I'm asking my other question, but Owande from Nairobi also is on the phones. Good morning, Owande.
Good morning, Ken.
Yes.
How are you?
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. I'm
yes, go ahead.
Thank God. Now, I have a question. I'm in business. Now, when it comes to finances, we get to realize that those of us who are in business, we tend to have a problem in how to allocate our resources in terms of what we get after doing all the rest of the business. So basically what I wanted to know from the panelists is how can we really be able to prioritize what percentage can go to the human resource, what percentage can remain in the business and running the business, and what exactly percentage can a startup, someone who is starting, actually allocate for themselves, because you realize you cannot pay ourselves salary. So basically, what percentage can we give to ourselves, maybe be it in terms of commission or be it in terms of salary, if at all we are to allocate ourselves? We don't really understand. There is a quagmire. Sometimes I get the money, I go to a suit store and buy a fantastic suit, and the whole money disappears. So how can we go about it? Thank you.
I agree. You're not alone. You're not alone. I think this is what Frida spoke about. So Frida, you can go first, right? Okay. What percentage? Yes.
That's a tricky question. All right. That's a question that business owners are always asking us. What percentage do I keep? How do I pay myself? And I always tell business owners that you need to be willing to give people more information if you need the right help. Because number one, to help you, we use the Profit First formula. And the Profit First formula is a book by Mike Mijungu. I can't pronounce his name. In the Profit First formula, because our main goal when we're working with business owners is to help them break through cash flow and into profit, because most are not. And in the Profit First formula, Mike has a 5-step formula. I'm big on formulas. And one is five foundational accounts that you need to have for your business. So you have the income, and then the profit, and you have taxes. I better say that in case Carrie is watching, but it's true. Income, profit, taxes, owners' compensation, and OPEX, operation expenses. And what we do at Passion Profit, we do a revenue forecast for you to see how much money did you get historically and how much money are you projecting to get. And if you're a startup, like he said, we use industry trends to find out the data, and we help you decide how much percentage should go into all of the 5 foundational accounts so that you always have money. So it's hard to give you a percentage without having that data. We need some historical data or understand what is your business, how long have you been there, and then we can use your data or historical data from the industry.
I think that's the best answer, because at the end of the day, you cannot sit here and tell him, hey, 10%. Pay yourself 10%. But the only thing that you can tell him, and I can tell him, please pay yourself.
Absolutely. That's why there's owner's compensation account there. Absolutely.
Pay yourself. Actually, it's very key. You have to pay yourself.
You must.
You get all the profit, you pay the workers, and because it's your business, you say, no. I can always go back and get some money out of it.
But you must pay yourself.
You're a worker.
You are doing
That's how you
a lot of the
generated
work
that
you're
income.
going to do.
Yes.
And especially as startups, as an entrepreneurs, you need to begin to prioritize and say, why are you in business? Are you in business to pay everybody else, or are you in business for your personal growth and the things that you want to achieve as well? So that kind of system, exactly what Fridah was talking about, you're trying to prioritize based on your goals.
Yeah.
And many times the issue that we have is that we just started a business and we never thought, why? We never thought, what is, somebody said, start a business, and you went into it immediately. Positive, yes, but without an end in mind, then there are problems along the way. Yeah. So it's so important for entrepreneurs to begin to think about themselves as one of the factors of production in their business. In fact, a major factor of production. And you must be able to pay yourself from there. So many times, even when you talk about paying yourself, when you pay yourself a salary, you understand the value that you have. We have seen it many times in businesses where somebody is looking for an investor to come into their business. And so the investor will come and look at your books and wonder, so this is the total amount for the payroll. Good. There's a huge amount that is missing. If we were to hire a CEO to come into your business, can the business even sustain the CEO? So it means there's an issue with that business plan and the business model that you have. If you're not paying yourself, then the business is actually not generating enough for what you're trying to do.
I also want just to add into that, it is extremely important to reconcile the reality of the level growth stage at which the business is.
Yes.
For example, if you are at infancy stage, if the business is at infancy, you cannot pay like a maturity institution. So alignment, just like organizations grow like babies. You see, when they are small, they drink milk. That's the much they can, because the assimilation capacity in their body, that's the much they can. They would migrate to teenagehood, then maturity. It means systems are there, sustainability is there, and you are able then to. So aligning the reward strategy, both to yourself and even to the staff, has to do with where are you at, and also possibly the future. The danger I see with many consulting institutions is that every check they get, they over-reward. They take everything. So if you eat the future of the business now, the future will eat yourself.
They'll eat you.
Because you have to have a balance, that with a mindset that resources that come, they are coming for the vision of the institution. And visions eat. You have to feed it for growth sustainability in terms of the business. So there need to be a discipline. And that discipline for most entrepreneurs has to do with the governance framework they put in the institutions. Have an advisory board within the organization if you cannot afford to have a board of directors independent. And I just quickly guide, how can you select one? I go with the 5 C's model. Look at the character of the people you want to have. C number 1. 2, credibility. 3 is the competency. 4 is they have to complement some skill deficiency that you have. And then the 5, which is more important, is the chemistry. You will never work with people you don't like.
You can't. Two can't work together except to be agreed.
On that, there's a writer called Bill Hybels, and he writes about his experience of over 50 years of management, and he came to that same conclusion. When we're hiring people, there must be chemistry. And he said, even if I find somebody extremely qualified, but I can't get along with them, there's an issue there, you'll find that it's less profitable for the business over time.
And we have very typical, most of the entrepreneurs in Kenya today, they are failing because of governance. Because there are no checks. We have the inborn urge to self-reward. And so when you get $1 million, you really want to, treat yourself very well. With the hope that tomorrow is. And I just want to give you a quick example. Annual began with about 300,000. Right now, this is our 8th year. We are looking after a portfolio of 62 billion. We have we are serving customers in over 15 countries, Africa. We have just operationalized Uganda now, and we have an operating license there. But one thing I can attribute to our sustainability in terms of growth is governance. From month 5, we had a board in place. Currently, we have our board chair is Mr. Nelson Kuria, the former group CEO of CIC Insurance. And the impact is huge, because before you pay yourself as a CEO, the board has to approve. Does it make sense? It means there is independency. But where you don't have checks and balances, things will go haywire.
Okay. 300,000, 62 billion for
yes,
portfolio.
Amazing.
Very
amazing.
interesting. That's, if you gave it to some person, the 300, say buy plot. What's the name? That portfolio. As we end, I just have one more question. Then at the end of it, I'd want each of you to recommend a book, right? Okay. Yeah, to recommend a book that someone can just read to start them off. We have about 5 minutes on the clock, and I'd like to ask the importance to people who are watching. And to me, the answer is the importance of this question is, or I ask the question first, why is it important to talk to a financial advisor or a planner or a coach? For me, it is the same questions that have come on air this morning. But let me start with you, with your closing remarks, then you can recommend a book. Fridah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ken, again. And the key thing for me, especially because I'm a coach, I'm a stickler for support. I don't try to think that I know everything. And I also know that not one person can know everything. So I'm always looking for the appropriate support, either through a coach or a mentor. And so I advise people, to succeed, you will need a success team. And a success team has a trusted peer advisor, somebody at your season, at your level, that can hold you accountable. Like Simon was talking about governance. I find that a lot of times we don't have people holding us accountable. So you need a peer advisor, you need a mentor. A mentor is somebody who's in a similar business like you and has succeeded, who is walking the path that you desire to walk. And you need a coach to hold you accountable, to ask you the questions that nobody is asking you, so that you can make right decisions. And the mentor will also give you will help you get information that will help you to get the right decisions. So you need a success team and you need a support team. The support team, you delegate your weaknesses to support team. So the success team is to help your strengths so that you grow stronger. Because as human beings, improvement is our DNA. The Bible says the path of the just is like a shining light. It shines brighter and brighter. So I always tell the entrepreneurs I'm working with, this life of yo-yo, up and down, is not your life in the kingdom. In the kingdom, it should be up and up. So we even make fun and say, how is life? We say up and up. Because what you think, you become. And then your support team should be, you delegate your weaknesses. Especially, I speak to the women who are trying to do everything by themselves. You're the wife, you're the mother, you're trying to go for every recital of your child. What support do you have around you? And you need support with the home, you need support at work. What are the skills that you don't know that you need other people to come into? And when you're getting your support team, what I recommend is we have, I call it here the 3D system. Discover how it is done, do it, and then delegate. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs delegate, especially accounting, because they're scared of numbers, but they don't know what. There's an accountant who comes and does the books, all right? What does he do in the books? You have no idea. So discover what he does, do with him, and then delegate to him. So get the support and find out what are the numbers I should be looking at, what are the things that I should put my pulse on so that I know whether the business is doing well or not, as opposed to somebody just sliding me a piece of paper. So get the support you need for the areas that you are struggling. You don't have to struggle. Get the support. I'm done. I'm done. And my book is Profit First by Mike Mikawalki. I can't pronounce his last name. First. Just look for Profit First by Mike, so that you can profit this year.
She's eaten all your time, but
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He's my buddy.
Yes, it was vital, yes.
Very quickly. When I went to university, the first thing that I learned is that I don't have all the knowledge in the world. So part of what we do at Centonomy when we're training is that we're saying that there's knowledge around and we're trying to consolidate that knowledge that will help you grow. That is how humans grow. The other thing is that in our classes, you'll be with different people at different stages in life, and the discussions are so rich that they help you to see, okay, I'm learning from that person's experience, I can help somebody else through the experience. So in our classes, we are very focused on helping you to understand where you want to go, give you the skills on how to get there. And especially, that's in personal financial management, in entrepreneurship, and in career development. We have those 3 areas that we discuss. The book that I'm going to recommend is not yet out, but it's coming out very soon, end of this month or into next month. a book called Making Sense by our founder, Washeke Ndwati.
Wow.
She's finally written a book. We've been hounding her to do so. So look out for it by end of this month or early next month.
She's still on your board, right?
She is, yes, and she's still one of our trainers
she's still
as
one
well.
Of you, yeah.
Yes,
great
yes,
lady.
yes.
Yes.
I think often we have this deception that we, self-deception that we know it all.
Wow.
And having a coach enhances the reality of how much we don't know, we know. Correct. That could be of great value to ourselves. The book, in the interest, I have 2 books in the interest of time. One is the Bible. The wages of sin is death, and that death includes money.
Amen.
The source of life we have is from God. And if we have him, everything else lives very well. Number 2 is Spirit of Trust by Steve Covey. That when people trust you, it's so easy to entrust you with resources at high speed. So when the ecosystem of trust is low, you do things expensively and at a very prolonged period of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally,
unfortunately, he stole my book.
Yes, one of them.
Because I was about to say the Bible,
Yeah.
but specifically the book of Proverbs, because there you get really rich information about how to manage your life in according to God's principles. And in fact, that's one of the things we do. We have a course which teaches how to manage your money according to God's principles. Now, it's very, very important to have support, and especially in a field like personal finance. You see, money is very emotional, and too many people think that it's simple and all you have to do is earn more, but unfortunately that's not the truth. The truth is that it's actually quite complex, and you as an individual will find it difficult to be objective and make objective decisions and have an objective point of view without outside information. And having somebody who you can trust, somebody who is qualified, not just anybody, but somebody who's qualified, who can really, really be of help in improving your financial situation. Okay. So I believe that everybody should actually get a coach or a financial planner, and also themselves, they should learn, just like Fridah said. First of all, also you learn, read the books, you take the courses, learn, so that even as the financial planner or coach is talking to you, you understand where they're coming from. And in that way, you'll end up being able to grow and become to the level of mastery of your money.
Okay. So the book is the Bible.
The book is the Bible,
The
Proverbs,
book is the Bible.
but there is also another simple book which people can read, and it's called The Millionaire Next Door.
Millionaire Next Door. I've read it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thanks for coming and sharing. We are out of time, but I want to thank you for coming, and I promise you another show. We have to talk about this all year long. Thank you very much. And Fridah has just left. Fridah Owinga has just left. She's a breakthrough coach and works for Passion for Profit. Waithaka Gatumia, CS Autonomy, Manyara, Kirago, the personal financial advisor, and of course Simon Wafubwa, who's the CEO and well. Thank you very much for coming, and thanks for watching. I'll be back here tomorrow. Same time, that's 6 a.m. So join us. Have a good morning, and coming right after this is Living with Us. Good morning.